What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Assisted Living Investing. This is episode number 100. So for everyone who's been with me for several years, thank you for following along. And if you are new to us, I'd ask you to go ahead and share the show. We are here documenting our journey, showing how we are building wealth and helping people through real estate, and really sharing everything that we do behind the scenes, showing all the numbers. So if you know somebody who is looking to get into assisted living, it is the best real estate opportunity in the marketplace. Share the show with them. Thank you so much in advance for doing that. So also another big week for us at Platinum Resort because we are having our grand opening. It's actually tomorrow as I'm filming this. So we built out our neighborhood of assisted living mansions. We have 7.6 acres. We are doing a two-phase build. We built two 10,000 square foot mansions. Ribbon cutting is tomorrow, and we'll come back in a couple years, refinance and build two more mansions here. We'll have a total of 80 beds. We do assisted living and memory care here in the Georgetown, Texas area. It has been phenomenal for myself, my wife, and our family. It's provided financial freedom. It's provided massive, massive wealth for us, and we're able to make a big difference. We're literally able to help hundreds of seniors and their families. So it's been fantastic. Thank you for coming along with us. I would encourage anybody to get into this space. I realistically think that pretty much everyone can do this. You do need grit, right? It's not easy. You do have to have some kind of financial means or a money partner with you. But if you have some type of real estate experience and or you have some kind of medical experience, man, you can leverage what you have, bring on a partner, bring on the systems and the money, and be able to do a massive life-changing deal like myself and Laura have done. So for our project here, I want to talk about kind of expansion because we finished phase one, right? We're going to start operating now. We're going to wait a couple years. We have an SBA loan. There is a prepayment penalty. And then we'll go and refinance out and build phase two. And so part of the practicalities of this is we have 7.6 acres. Do we go ahead and subdivide? And I've talked to a lot of people who are building out a neighborhood like we are, following our model. And one of the questions I frequently get is, well, do I go on the front side and do I subdivide this? Or can I keep it all as, one plot? And there's pros and cons to both sides of this. And honestly, I think, there is asset protection. You look at all those kind of things, and we have each of our operations companies separate, right, from the real estate company. But even more so from the asset protection side, it would be best if you could separate all of the real estate as well. And that would provide, the best asset protection, but it may not be the most practical for a number of different reasons. And so for us, we did not subdivide. And really there's three reasons why you should or should not, and I'll kind of unpack them here. That is your utilities, that is the bank financing, and that's potential investors. And so really there is not a right or wrong choice on this. It goes back to your specific project and what your objectives are. But for us, as we were getting started here, we didn't have a lot of utilities, right? There was no city water, there was no sewer there. So we had to bring in a lot of our own private utilities, private fire water, underground fire hydrants, all of the kind of things, massive tanks and pumps. And practically speaking, it was easier for me not to subdivide. That way I didn't have to do easements and in things like that in order to be able to have all of my own private utilities that kind of just cross any boundary that would be there. So I thought, hey, you know what? I'll sacrifice a little bit of this asset protection, have simplicity as I'm building out this one big site with 4 mansions on it. And so that's what we did. We just have one piece of land. And that was a great choice for us, but there's pros and cons, and I may actually have to go back and change this here in about a year or two because I'm going into my expansion, and my bank, I'm using an SBA lender, they told me, hey, Brett, no big deal, right? You can keep it all as one piece of property, come back later, we will cash out refinance and do a second loan, a new SBA loan in a second position, right, to your commercial loan when you go refinance it out for your expansion. And I'm like, okay, great, then I don't need to subdivide this thing. But then not that long ago, they're like, hey, you know what? We've had some sticking points with this, right? I think it is best if you can subdivide. That way we can separate, the two parcels, and we'll have one collateralization over here in first position, the second collateralization over here in, again, another first position, and not in a second. And so pros and cons here, right? I probably will start going and subdividing my land here in the next year or so in preparation for my phase two. So I do think that's a really important consideration is the banks. How can you go and do the deal if you are planning multiple phases? If you're just going to do one phase, no big deal. That's what it is, right? You do not need to subdivide. But if you're going to be expanding and building out and potentially rolling the equity you have in, phase one into phase two, how do you get all of that equity and how do you keep the bank safe and protected as you are expanding? And that may be going and subdividing. It may be a bank that can do an expansion loan or a second position loan as you are building into phase two and sometimes phase three or four. So practically speaking, it may be for the long term best for you to go on the front side as you're going through planning and zoning, as you're doing the site plan, to go ahead there and subdivide all of those different things. The third consideration I want to talk about is your investors. Potential investor deal structure could affect should you go and subdivide on the front end or not. Because realistically, how long are your investors going to be in this deal? If you are building out a neighborhood and you're having 2, 3, 4 phases here, right? That may be a 10-year play for you to build, operate, expand, build, operate, expand, and go and build out your neighborhood. And when people are investing in phase one, are you expecting that they're going to keep their capital in there for the duration of this whole thing, right? Which honestly might be a big ask for someone to say, hey, you know what? I want you to keep your capital in here for, 10 plus years. That might be a bit much there. I think kind of 5 to 10 is pretty normal and reasonable, but above 10, I think it may not be. So something to consider if you are going to have investors come in on phase one. Now they have equity in the entire deal, right? You're bringing them in on the equity position side, not on the debt side if you need this capital as part of your capital injection for your loan. So now they own all of the land, right? They own a percentage of the whole thing, and anything that you build on it in the future, right, is going to be tied to that real property of the land. And so they will have equity in that next expansion building. If you don't want them to have equity in phase two, then you should subdivide prior to that, right? You subdivide on, even in your planning process before you start phase one. If you're thinking, hey, you know what, you're just putting in this capital here, I'm going to keep you on this project, and then I'm going to expand and raise more money for phase two and phase three and et cetera, then you should definitely subdivide. But there may not be that need, right? If you have someone coming in and they're in for the whole play, the long haul, right? A lot of times you can build in phase one, you're going to have equity in that. If you can cash out, refinance, pull, potentially an SBA loan off, get a new commercial loan, and then do a new SBA loan for phase two, man, SBA, they'll do 90, sometimes 100% financing once you have experience and you have equity. So for me, the bank said, hey, Brett, we can go and do 100% financing on phase two. That's the real property, that's the working capital, that's the reserves, all of that kind of stuff, right? No capital out of pocket. So therefore, I don't necessarily need investor capital for phase two. So this can create a huge win and a big opportunity as you are negotiating with investors. You may say to investor, hey, you know what? You're going to come here in on this deal. It's going to have this kind of cash on cash return. And that's just in phase one. Then we're going to expand to phase two. So you're able to perhaps negotiate a little bit lower of an equity position on phase one because they're going to go into phase two or three, whatever else you're building out, and potentially say, hey, I don't think you're going to need to bring in more capital. Or if you do, this would be what it would look like. Or if you don't, it would look like this. I guess what I'm trying to say is as you are going in, and let's just say you brought in an investor partner of 300 grand and you offered them 15% equity in the real estate company and the operations company. That's just a kind of random example. But then they come in, right? You build out your phase one, you stabilize, you go to expand into phase two. If that is the case, you may not need additional real capital from them, right? You're going to roll equity. You have experience now. You're going to get, almost 100% or 90% financing from the bank going into phase two. Therefore, they would potentially have equity now in this new project. Definitely in the real estate piece, you don't have to give them equity in the operations piece, but you could, if you wanted to, say, hey, you know what? I have the option to buy you out prior to that, or you can come in for the expansion on phase 2. And your equity position is 15% on phase 1, but any other building, right, we're gonna rock it down to say 5% or 7% or something like that. You don't have to keep them in the same equity position for the whole thing. You can go on the front side and negotiate all these things. You could put it right there in the operating agreement. You're gonna be at 15%, and then you're gonna be at 7, and then you're gonna be at 5, and for anything after that, right? Like, you can do those things and really set the stage with these kind of things. What I really like about what we do here is the freedom to create win-wins, right? You can go in, they can get a higher percentage or a good, fair percentage on the front side, but it leaves the win for you. If you're building out a neighborhood, you can expand into, building number 2, 3, 4. And honestly, I think that's where you as the operator, that's where you get the biggest win, right? Because you're coming in, you're not putting in very much capital. You maybe have lower on the experience side, and you have to give up more, and that's kind of just what it is. But as you expand and you develop more wealth through this thing, and you develop more experience through this thing, you can take progressively more and more of the lion's share there. So I think it is awesome to go out and build these neighborhoods. And you can definitely limit some of the costs on the front side, because you can just build a little portion of it and then go from there. Especially there's states where land is super cheap. Then go from there and just build out more and more and more, and continue to roll that equity into the deal. As long as you're cash flowing, right? You can keep doing that with a one SBA loan at a time, or you can do an expansion loan as long as you stay under the $5 million mark. So I think this is an awesome opportunity for so many people to get into the real estate space. You have experience, right? You're the nurse, you're the business person, right? You can go and take your skill set and really help people, honestly make a difference. What is out there? There's the big smelly facility, and there's the dinky little RELs, right? Like, both of those are inferior to our products. The competition is not that high. There are not very many people doing deals like this, right? You either have the big corporate or you have the little guys, and neither of them can make the sales that we can make, right? So I'd encourage you to jump into the space with both feet if this is something that appeals to you.